All right, so we're back with another episode of the process. This time we're doing a little something different. We're doing how to create magic card thumbnails. So as we start this off, I'm gonna be doing a batch of 4 individual thumbnails, and over on the left you can see my really quick, almost chicken scratch thumbnail sketches. Those are just me kind of putting down some marks on paper. And I just want everyone to know this is all real time, nothing's really sped up here. But just wanted to show you how quickly thumbnails can be developed, and it shouldn't be too strenuous and can be quite relaxing. So here I am starting off just with putting all 4 thumbnails on one page, and I'm just toning down the canvas. And something that I like to do actually here is I'm gonna apply a different sort of color palette to each one of these squares. So initially I might do, just kind of like a green tone or a yellow tone and a purple tone and maybe a red tone. Just trying to make sure that these kind of have different color palettes. So this is just, I don't always start thumbnails this way, but this is a fun way to do it, just to kind of like break up the rhythm and maybe do something that's a little bit more explorative and kind of see how the results kind of come about. So let's jump into it. As we're moving forward, just want everyone to know that these are what I want to do with these thumbnails is I want to create these 4, and then I would love for you to let me know in the comments which one I should be finishing for the next video. All right, so I'll be doing 4 of these concepts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll number these later, but let me know which one in the concepts, or even more than one, you would like to see me finish, and we'll get a vote. We'll get a vote going, and I'll do another video on a finishing process about this. All right, so we're starting off with the first one. We're going to be doing these, kind of magic card illustration themed stone runes. These like diamond shaped runes that are really really cool, that are in the lore for a lot of magic cards. So that's something that I want to kind of play around with. Maybe you guys are, you're fans of the franchise, you play the game, so you'll definitely know what some of these, what kind I'm talking about over here. So let's just jump into it. Now the shape language is really really fun. There are these triangular shapes. They're diamond kind of diamond pyramid type of like forms. So they're fun to play around with and compose. So on this first one, I'm just thinking about perhaps there's this graveyard of runes with a thick, deadly fog that's created the fog of madness or the fog of death. Something cool like that. So it might be kind of fun to play around with that sensibility. So a lot of these runes are toppled over. They are, it's kind of like this misty graveyard. It should feel desolate. It should feel very, very not inviting. Not inviting at all. So just kind of playing around with some of the shapes. I'm not trying to rush the image either, and that's one of the things I think is important when you're creating thumbnails is it's just take your time. Let the image kind of go on its own. But again, it's not about having these take a long time per se, but just allowing yourself to kind of fit in the needed information that's important for the communication, for the piece to communicate. All right, so just kind of making some additional marks over here. I'm going to be pretty soon just jumping into some of the other ones, just so that I can start getting some of the other images just kind of figured out. So let's keep this going. And in this, I'm working pretty monochromatically. Each one, it was kind of set with a certain type of a palette. So at this point, I feel like, all right, cool. I have a general starting point, and I'm just trying to add in the foreground, middle ground, background. Allowing the 1, 2, 3 read happen very, very quickly, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to achieve in this thumbnail phase. All right, so off to number 2. This one is going to be a little bit of a different twist. It is a stone rune toppled over in a dead or deceased forest. All right, so there's a bunch of trees toppled over, maybe burnt to a crisp. There's a lot of these branches that are just twisted and gnarled, you know, making it a very non-inviting sort of a environment, but having sort of this magical moment happening as well, where there's this rune toppled over and maybe some cool, interesting lighting and surfaces being lit. So let's see how this one kind of goes. So working into the foreground, and a lot of the time, if you kind of saw the first one, I you know, work my foreground shape in pretty quickly, especially when it comes to a scene like this where I want the camera to feel like it's really inside of the scene, you know, not like a floating camera from high up above, but like we're inside of this forest. We're actually trying to look through some of these branches. So I kind of play around with the composition of these shapes first, and you know, because the rune, you know, the stone pyramid shape is something more basic, I want to play around with the environment elements first, and then I'll paint in the rune shortly after. So I was thinking it might be kind of cool to have these like really sharp, spiky thorns that are coming out of the branches here. Just again, making it more, how should I say, like more evil and more dangerous, and just giving it that appeal. And again, for card illustrations, it's really important that things read from a thumbnail view, right? Because again, like when people play these games, they're relying on the read of the illustration to be so quick and so fast, so that these players can understand, oh, quickly, by almost like a color, by a silhouette, by a shape, like, oh, this is kind of like how they can identify the card very, very quickly. So I'm going to lay in the rune back there. Um, you know, this one does have like a darker green palette to it, excuse me. And so I just want to pronounce the silhouette. And again, you know, I am going to be making the needed adjustments to sort of play around with the value structure here. Everything that we paint is you know, it's up for adjustment, right? Like oftentimes early on in my development, I thought that some of the marks that I made, like I couldn't undo them. You know, like I thought that, oh, if you make a mark, then it has to stay there permanently. But you know, everything's about adjustment, and everything's about trying to find just a way to get the image to be the priority. You know, so just kind of making adjustments. Now I'm adding in a little bit of lighting, just hitting some of the spiky thorns and maybe a little bit of the runes back there. I'm trying to just figure out where I can add a little bit more contrast and such. But I kind of like those spikes that are sticking out of the fallen big tree trunk in the foreground. It's kind of like the way that leads the eye in, and then it kind of makes you look at the rune in the background. All right. Well, let's see over here. I'm starting to think about this first shot again, and you know, I want to really pronounce this whole fog idea. So let's start adding in a little bit more atmosphere, a little bit of that foggy treatment. And you can see in the thumbnail, like in the drawings to the left, there was some kind of smoke drawing indicated back there. So you know, let's I guess no better time than now, I guess, to just add that stuff in. So let's see how this goes. So I'm just using a little bit of lasso tool, separate the planes, get a little bit of silhouette, and just do a really fast, just do a quick pass of atmosphere. Atmosphere and silhouettes. Some of the coolest images that I've ever seen in film are like these, in movies and in cinematics, are like these really simple, like simplified, I guess I should say, shots of just like, excuse me, shapes and silhouettes and, you know, smoke. You know, just like that movement looks just like so amazing sometimes. So All right, now let's keep it going. I'm adding in a little bit of debris. Got this kind of fun debris brush that just makes it look like particles are flying in the air. Nothing fancy, but it's just kind of fun to use. A little bit of adjustment and lighting on number 2. Now I'm thinking about maybe there's a glow or some sort of soft ambient lighting kind of coming through the forest top canopies or just something. A little bit of softness coming up top there. We'll figure out the lighting more so in the final round if this one gets chosen, number 2 gets chosen, but it's kind of fun. I like seeing the green palette, you know, the strong green light really being pronounced. Now I had this idea, what if there were more runes back there? And the green light was actually hitting those runes? That'd be kind of fun, you know? So I'm just starting to think about, all right, just like in number 1, I'm adding in just a little bit more spice once I got the general 1, 2, and 3 in there. So now I'm kind of doing the same thing here on number 2. Is I'm adding in just a little bit more spice. So there's like maybe a rune shape back there that's just getting hit by that green light that's kind of coming through the canopies, a little bit of details on that surface. Yeah, this one has potential, has some good potential. Pretty fun. Now what's kind of fun about doing this process here, it's like a batch, it's like a series of 4 concepts, you know, within the same general context. I love doing these types of exploration because they're more focused, you know, and nothing's harder than trying to reinvent 4 completely different ideas. That's actually very challenging. So I think doing 4 variations of a singular idea becomes a lot more relaxing. It's a lot more, you know, fun in my opinion. So I don't know if that's anything that offers any advice to you guys in this tutorial where it's all about creating ideation. You know, this is really about ideation. All right, so I got number 3 in the works. Number 3, sorry guys, I'm just like battling a little cold, so it's almost gone, but you can kind of hear it in my voice and coughing a little bit. Sorry about that. Anyway, got this idea about now these runes are just floating. They're floating, and there's all this smoke and destruction. Like there's it's not just fog down there, but it's destructive smoke, you know. So something's going on. So I got this idea that, you know, maybe there's this floating floating runes, maybe like a whole quadrant of them, you know, in like a formation, you know, something kind of like, yeah, something very graphic. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe there's like an arrangement of 3, you know, maybe 3 or 4, just foreground, middle ground, background. Again, using the fundamentals of design, big, medium, and small, 1, 2, 3, foreground, middle ground, background. So there we are, you know, a little bit of different arrangement there. And let's start to just kind of add in the elements of smoke. You can see in the thumbnail, it's, you know, we're following the thumbnails pretty accurately, right? If you kind of see the major gestures, like they're all, I guess, kind of represented in the paintings as well. All right, so here we go. Let's add in the smoke. A little bit of atmospheric perspective. I guess, you know, thinking about it, I can just add in smoke right now. There's no point to kind of push these back in atmosphere because the atmosphere is about to change. So just again, just for anyone that's like kind of catching up to this, remember, I really would love your vote on number 1, 2, 3, or 4 on which one of these thumbnails for a magic card illustration that I would finish, you know, and do another video on just like how it's the process of finishing this up. And so my background is I'm a concept artist and illustrator, and I've done a lot of illustrations for the Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering and that whole franchise. I don't know, maybe around 75 or 80 different cards perhaps over the years. And so this is sort of the process that I like to use on my own deliver the thumbnails to them and have them review it and maybe even pick one or two, or just one of them to eventually become the final illustration that's like on the card. So hopefully this kind of gives some insight. Get a lot of questions about how do you come up with these ideas, or what's the process like that you like to use when you work with them. And so thought I'd just make an informative video about that for anyone who's interested. So smoke, yep, got that smoke coming through, layered, thick. And one of the things that I really like about that I wanted to push about this is having parts of the rune be lost and found within the smoke. So it feels kind of almost like have you guys seen the movie War of the Worlds? Where it's like it's kind of older now, but it's like the sci-fi movie where aliens like invade Earth, but you get these cool smoke and aliens kind of walking through the smoke, and it's just like a really cool visual. But anyhow, going back to this, now I was thinking, what's another way to really pop off this piece here? Just like adding in that spice. And I was thinking maybe there's like an electrical charge at the tip of those, just kind of, and it's just activating it. It's just, it has this magicness. Awesome words, right? It has this magical element that's creating this chaos down there. So and maybe a little bit of glowing hieroglyphs, along the way, just to kind of show some activity. But I think this one is getting buttoned up pretty quick. What's really fun about doing thumbnails like this also is that, and notice that I'm not zooming in, because that's a trap. If I zoom in, then I'm automatically going to be looking at details, and I'm going to be thinking about how to noodle this thing. But because this is a real-time video, I just want to show you guys how efficiently you can kind of put down an idea when there's like a system you can use, or a process that you can use, right, to get them done in an efficient way. So whether or not it's like a magic card, or you're doing a concept for, like, I don't know, a video game or an IP like The Last of Us or Halo or whatever it is, try to do them in this sort of like batch way. Also, what's saving a lot of time is that I have the thumbnails just sketched out previously. And if you look at the thumbnails, they're nothing fancy. They're just really quickly laid in, just a couple seconds per sketch. All right, off to number 4. Now this one is thinking about runes in front of a waterfall, in front of a tropical waterfall, right? So there's 2 runes kind of embedded into the water, sunken into the water, half exposed, and there's going to be waterfalls behind it, and just this kind of like beautiful, tropical, yet slightly mysterious and dangerous type of scene. Now in this one, I'm thinking already, if you notice, there's a lot of green on all 3 of these pieces, so I want to change this one up pretty quickly when it comes to the color palette. So I have that in mind at least. I'm just kind of painting in some background sky. I want to pronounce the tip of that rune because now it's important. It's the only sharp shape that's really breaking into the sky, so it kind of calls for attention. Got some streaming waterfalls in the back, and now it's just about kind of painting in the general needed, I guess, like the set dressing that would be here. What would you imagine seeing in a tropical waterfall scene like this? Like lily pads, like reflections, I don't know, like driftwood. What would you kind of imagine seeing? And those are the things that we would want to add to make sure that we're really selling the believability of this location, right? So that's what I'm kind of trying to do right now, just adding in the general 1, 2s, and 3s of set dressing. Something in the foreground, something in the midground, something in the background, to really help get the set dressing to feel pretty cohesive in all this. All right, let's get some color. Let's get some color in there. So one way that I like to add color is just basically a new layer and soft light. Now soft light is a great layer setting for me to explore color and just putting down a wash. Okay, putting down a wash. So let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about. I wanted to drastically change the temperature of this piece, so all four of these kind of start going into different temperature directions and color directions. And so just from here, I want to add in just a little bit more spice, right? A couple of more, I guess, pronounced areas, right, that are lit, that might have a little bit more detail in those specific parts and stuff. So trying to just light this surface of the rune, you know. And I'm also thinking, what are some other elements in here? You know, this, it might be kind of cool if this was like a rune that was here for a very, very long time, and so nature is just so used to it. So there's like birds flying around it. You've got like pelicans and swans just kind of perched near it. So maybe making it kind of feel like that might be kind of fun. So let me kind of paint in a swan shape, just like a silhouette in the foreground. Just so everyone can understand what each piece is about, because I need your vote. Need your vote in the comments. Let me know. Comment like number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4. And you can vote for multiple, you know, kind of give me a couple, I guess. But I would love to pick one of these with the most votes and do the finish and have another video about how the whole process of finishing this up, because that's going to be a whole different mindset and a whole different set of tools and stuff like that. So here are the 4 examples, the 4 thumbnails on how to create a magic card illustration ideation batch just like this. And number 2, number 3, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And so let me know in the comments which one or ones you would like to see taken to finish. All right. And so thanks again for joining me on this episode of The Process. Take a look at these, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need your vote. Let me know. I don't know. I need some sort of a cutoff date, but we'll talk about that later. So thanks for joining, everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Peace out.